Hi everyone, my name is Jo Loss and I'm the Learning Technologies Manager at Essex ACL. And I'm going to go through with you now the material shared at the Flipped Learning training session for the Digital ACE programme. So what is a Digital ACE programme? It's designed to support providers on the next stage of their technological journey, help them develop their digital capability so that the offer can be enhanced for learners while still maintaining the learner-centred and high-quality approach to adult learning. So what we're going to look at is what's meant by flipped learning. We're going to identify some of the benefits of flipped learning and look at some tools and strategies that could be suitable for flipped learning. So when I ran the session on flipped learning, these are some of the words that we thought of when it comes to flipped learning, and this is using a tool called Menti. And the larger the words in this word cloud, the more learners said. So different, change. People have thought about independent learning, the learner taking control, learner focus, flexibility, responsibility, that it's learner-led. So some great words there that people think of when they think of flipped learning. So what is flipped learning? So this is the flipped classroom example. So before the lesson, students will prepare something outside of the classroom, some work set by the tutor, it might be some reading, or it could be completing an activity. During the class, the students will come in and online or face-to-face, and they'll practice applying these key concepts and gain valuable feedback from both their peers and the tutor. And then after the class, the students will check their understanding and extend their learning further. So either recapping tasks, perhaps if someone hadn't quite grasped a concept, or extension tasks to push someone further on with their learning. So that's the visual for flipped learning. Successful flipped learning has 4 pillars for flipped learning, and they all promote excellent student engagement. So the first one, the flexible environment. So this is having a variety of different models used for learning, and it's flexible in the timing. So it enables learners with additional pressures and challenges to access these tasks and this part of their learning at a time that suits them. It's not regimented and rigid. The learning culture, it means it's really learner-centred. So the active learning takes place in the classroom with the learners present. That's the active time. Anything that could be read and looked at perhaps beforehand is done outside of the session, either before or after. The I is for intentional content. So it maximises the classroom time. So when you're planning the session, you really think about, what do I want my learners to get out of this hour, 2 hours with me? How can I maximise that? Is it a good use of time to be sitting doing an independent piece of writing? Could they do that and upload that somewhere so I can get that and they can gain that feedback that way? And the P is for professional educators. It creates reflective practitioners and reflective learners by the quality feedback that is given to the learners and by them taking autonomy in their learning as well. So we're increasing the learners' individual skills as well by using flipped learning. So we think about how we can flip the learning. So we can flip the learning by, as the diagram says, setting work for learners to do before the course. Then come in and apply those skills. If it's a practical course, can they use this, look at the theory behind a particular beauty technique, then come in and apply that and practice it. And then at home, refine that tool, skill after the session. The advantages and disadvantages of learners. Well, the massive advantage is the flexibility in this style of learning. Learners can access this part whenever they want, and they can do it at their own time, at their own pace, and it's to give them that autonomy that they need and the skill they need to develop. Some learners may find it difficult to focus and difficult to work in this way, so that could be a disadvantage. So it's about giving the learners the support early on to engage in these tasks and in this style of learning. And for us as teachers, we would spend more time with our learners that is valuable and making sure they get the best from their lessons. And by preparing material that learners will access asynchronously and before the lesson, if they're uploading it and sharing those responses, you can look and you can see perhaps who's struggling, perhaps who needs that bit of extra support. and work out exactly the key things you need to spend the time with your learners in during your session. So I'm now going to stop sharing this screen and I'm going to share a different screen with you. And what I'm going to share with you is I'm going to share with you something which is about the 4 pillars of Flip, which I've introduced you to already. And this is a self-assessment tool, which is a really useful tool to think about the way you might do your learning. So I'm just going to share my screen. So here we are looking at the 4 pillars of Flip. And this is a self-assessment tool. So if I look through this and think how I feel, so do I establish space and time frames to permit students to interact and reflect on their learning? Do I continue to observe and monitor and make adjustments as appropriate? So that's about getting those responses in and seeing how that might make you change what you're going to offer face-to-face. And providing students with different ways to learn the content and so they can demonstrate their mastery. It's a really good skill, learning that mastery. And then back to the learning culture, so making it learner-centred. So do we give the students those opportunities to engage in those meaningful activities? And are they scaffolded to make sure they're accessible to everyone and that the feedback is good quality feedback? The I, the intentional content. Are we maximising that classroom time? How confident do we feel about creating and curating relevant content, videos for students? So perhaps like this, recording over a PowerPoint, giving some instructions, giving a demonstration. And are we able to make that accessible and relevant to everybody? Can you add subtitles? Would your learners be able to translate it or change the contrast if they needed to? And are we prioritising concepts that give learners ability to access this on their own? And the P, professional educator. Are we available to our students for real-time feedback where it's needed? So that's really important, where that feedback is needed. And during our class time, are we conducting those formative assessments so we really can assess those skills that our learners should be gaining outside the classroom and look at how that information I'm gaining will help me to plan the next lessons and perhaps the next part of the flipped learning, what they need to either re-go over or build their skills. And am I collaborating with others and looking at how I can reflect and develop these skills? So really, this comes from the Flipped Learning Network, and it's just a reflective tool to enable people to look at that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing again. So once you've looked through the self-assessment and had to think about your own self-assessment, it's really important to then think about the resources that you would want to use and think about how you can maximise the time in the sessions and the flipped part of the sessions. Remember not to really overload your learners with too much flipping beforehand, or they may feel overwhelmed and not complete with the tasks. And they may then worry about having the live face-to-face session if they haven't completed all the work. So I'm going to introduce you just to a few tools now which could be suitable for using for flipped learning, but really think about tools which work best for you and your learners, and they'll be individual in your class. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to share with you just a tool which is called Flipgrid. And Flipgrid is a absolutely fantastic tool which is free for educators. So I'm going to share my screen. And this is Flipgrid online. And there are different things you can do within Flipgrid. You can record a Flipgrid short, which basically is just recording a screen recording. So fantastic, or you can do it on your phone as well, because Flipgrid has an app. So great for recording a demonstration perhaps, and you want your learners to then watch that. And you could embed that into a PowerPoint or into a Padlet or any other tool that you're using. So they could watch that video, perhaps to make sure they've got the skills right. The other thing you can do though, fantastic with Flipgrid, is you can create a class, and within your class, you can create topics. And you can share this with your learners, and you can either make it public or you can have it so that only people who have perhaps the educator email address can reply to it. And then you send your learners a link, and from that link, they can record their own response, their own video. And it could just be audio or it can be actual video. And you can then give them personalised feedback on that. If your learners are doing something creatively, you get the opportunity to look at the video of what they've done and give them individual feedback. but also everybody else can see everybody else's videos if you want that collaborative approach. So they can all see how everyone's approached that one topic. So that's how Flipboard works. And it's absolutely fantastic tool to say, great for online learning and really easy to use. And Flipboard has immersive reader built into it, which is a Microsoft tool, which is excellent for accessibility. It enables translation, it enables text to speech as well, so that people can read aloud, and the videos can have subtitles on them as well. So I'm going to stop sharing again, and I'm going to share a different screen with you, and I'm going to share with you Padlet. Now, Padlet is an online sticky board, for those of you who are not aware of it, and there is another one called Lino-It. But what Padlet can do is, there's a free version where you're allowed 3 boards, or there's a paid for version. And this is a Padlet board that we shared with some GCSE learners prior to coming into a session. So for their creative writing tasks, we put a picture on the background and we asked them, sent the learners the link, and we asked them to add the vocabulary that they thought the picture made them think of. So they started to gather that word bank ready for when they were going to do their creative writing. So this is a fantastic tool because then the learners have the experience of everybody else's vocabulary, can open conversation about words that have been used and why, give people the opportunity to learn new words and phrases if perhaps they weren't familiar with them themselves. And then gives them that really good starting point when they give them the title for their piece of writing. So we didn't give learners the title for writing, we just asked the vocabulary the picture made them think of. And very simple to use, you just double click and post. And it absolutely works absolutely fine on phones and tablets as well. And with Padlet, you can also upload folders and files. So you could upload a document and then your learners could add their own comments around that document. Or it could be an image, and everyone could upload their own images they've created if it's a creative class as well. Because you just can double click and you can upload, just type, but you can also upload files as well and take a picture from your camera or do an audio or visual recording as well. So another fantastic tool. And this is anonymous unless your learners have learner accounts, but you can obviously, of course, ask them to put their name in their post. Depends on the ground rules that you set. As I say, it's private. You can set it so it's private just to those people who have the link for the Padlet board. You can watch and see how everyone's work is coming in and creating it. And one last tool I'm going to share with you is a tool where you can add videos to it. So I'm just going to stop sharing. And this is a tool that allows you to use videos to also perhaps create activities where learners can test their skills. And it's called Edpuzzle. And it's free, again, you can have an education account. And when you log into Edpuzzle, there are videos that are made. And you can select a video from YouTube, Khan Academy, National Geographic, etc. Or you can look for an Edpuzzle video. And what you would do, you can either search for a video that somebody else has made, or you can make your own. So I'm going to search for something to do with, let's have a look. Profit and loss. I can select my country, so I want to make sure I've got videos from the United Kingdom. I could also select my grade. And then what I can see is there are some videos on how to do this. And this video here is 2.5 minutes long, and it's got 3 questions. This one's got 1 question or note halfway through. So I could watch these, and I'm going to have a quick look. There's one there, look, independent study on calculating profit with 12 questions, 7-minute video. But I'm just going to click on this one here. It's got 1 question. I could have a look at the video. It tells me that 24 seconds into the video, and this is an A-level 1. So again, you always want to check content's appropriate for your learners. Click here. And I've got the option here to select which one I think is the correct answer. You can set it up to skip, and I can submit. So what would be the example of an operating cost? So I can submit, and it tells me whether I'm right or wrong. So it tells me that I was wrong there. And I can click continue and carry on watching the video. I can also create my own by uploading my own video and then deciding where I want to pause and ask questions. So if there's a YouTube video that you might often use in your teaching and you might pause it to ask all your learners the question, you can set this up in Edpuzzle. And you can have 2 choices. You can just send your learners the link, and they can just work through it on their own. Or if everyone has accounts and you create a class on here, then you would see whose results were coming in and how. So it really depends on whether you want to be able to look at their scores or just for learners perhaps to do this as the after the session task to check their skills and knowledge and understanding. And I'm going to stop sharing now, and thank you very much.